tonight's movie is a Laurel Hardy movie, right?
You took the words out of my mouth. Utopia.
Utopia. What's your favorite Laurel and Hardy movie?
Laurel and Hardy. Never a big fan.
Never were.
No.
Were you a fan of? God, the title's a mess. Anyway, I grew up on them. They were on every Saturday, and I was a big fan of Laurel and Hardy. And then in the '60s, one of the afternoon shows had all their shorts because they made feature films, but they made lots of shorts, and I really came to appreciate them. And this is their last film. It's their most difficult film because everything seemed to go wrong on it, and it's no doubt the film that took the longest to make because I think they were 13 months on it because everything kept going wrong. So this really drained them. And
I couldn't tell the difference between Abbott and Costello and Martin and Lewis. No, only kidding.
Yeah, well, Laurel Hardy in the 30s, Abbott and Costello in the 40s, Martin Lewis in the 50s. You can almost see the evolution of American comedy in those three because they're so different, but there's a tie between them. And the Abbott and Costello had the rapid fire dialogue, and their timing was really sharp, which is one of the reasons they broke up in the 50s because as they got older, the timing got harder and harder to keep up, and finally, I think it was Costello. They had a Las Vegas act in the 50s, and the timing just wasn't there anymore, so then they just broke it off. And,
gee, how do you lose the timing?
Well, to be honest, they both drank too much. So that was one thing.
There you go.
And in those days, they joke about it, that 70 is the new 50 and all that, but it's really true. I mean, people are doing a lot better in later years than they used to. So, you go back, not in our lifetimes, early lifetimes. A person 60 was, not a retirement age, but they were older than they are now at 60.
Absolutely.
Me too. I'm kind of hoping that's true now that I'm 62. But the people, the diet, the medical thing, and the abuse. You read about these old movie stars. They all smoke. By our standards, they smoked too much. They drank too much. They didn't take care of themselves. And part of the result is they had shorter careers.
But they didn't know it. There wasn't the medical information at the time, and it made them look cool to drink and smoke on screen.
Yeah, and Abbott and Costello, by a lot of standards, were temperate men. They weren't wild men like some of the movie stars. But it took a toll, and so let's see, 1955, Abbott would have been 59, Costello would have only been 49. He wasn't even 50 yet. But if you watch their movies, my favorite movie of all time is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And if you watch the movies before then, that's when I say the razor sharp time. They could go back and forth, and like their famous routine, "Who's on first?" That is all timing. Because when you read the dialogue, it doesn't make you laugh, but when you see them perform it, it's hilarious. But after Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, after 1948, if you watch the movies, there's a precipitous decline in the quality of the movies, and you start. You really get the feeling, even if you're seeing the movie even if you've never seen Abbott and Costello before, if you watch one of their later films, the early 50s, you get the feeling they've been doing this too long. And I think that was it.
Some people get better like fine wine, and some just fizzle out. Yeah,
well, I really think they needed new material. I think the jokes got, everything they did in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, all their gags and all that, they had basically done before. But I think that was the last hurrah for them, really making it look fresh and new. After that, it just didn't look fresh anymore. I have trouble watching Abbott and Costello movie from the early 50s because you look at me, see, it's like watching an athlete in his last year of play. Gee, whether he's good or bad today, he's not what he was, and he'll never be that way again.
I'm very fond of these old actors now making these movies. Redgrave in Mission Impossible, she was just magnificent as, what was the, Max. Max. So you didn't know if Max was a man or a woman. You assumed it was a man, and then it turned out to be her. She was just wonderful. And Clint Eastwood, I think, unlike Michael Keaton, who like Woody Allen, shouldn't be directing and acting in movies now. Maybe they should just direct. I think Clint Eastwood does a fine job of acting and directing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, he's one of our. You know, he actually is. I guess Clint Eastwood is pushing 80, right?
Yeah, but he's still productive.
Yeah, but I mean that is a generation after Abbott and Costello, after the guys in the 50s. If you look at like Clark Gable, I would nobody when he was alive would say Clark Gable was the greatest actor in the world, but I would say there's nobody's acting from the 1930s that dates better. His acting, Spencer Tracy, Lionel Barrymore, the so-called great actors of the 1930s. If you watch them now, their styles seem a little stilted. It's a little too, it's either hammy or affected. I think Lionel Barrymore was a terrible ham. Spencer Tracy doesn't seem to be acting. You can tell it's a guy playing a role. Whereas I think Clark Gable, you see his big films from the 30s, I think he's just so natural. But he didn't age particularly well. You know, he died, by our standards, a very young man, 59. But you can see the years had taken their toll on him, not on his acting talent, but just on his physical appearance. And had he been alive in our generation, he would have been making, he would have looked a lot better at age 59 than he did when he made the Misfits or whatever. That was he's still a very attractive man, but he was obviously much older than the guy of a few years before.
To wrap up on Utopia, and then I have to get to my next guest who's ringing my cell phone.
Okay.
We've reviewed it before, the final flick, but it did, despite all the problems, it's still a good movie.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of two movies in one here. There's the first part when they inherit the boat, take a sailing trip, and get to the island. That's kind of a replay of their classic routines, their sight gags. Either you like that or they don't. I think the movie really regenerates itself when they get to the island. That has a stronger plot, and they fit into it well. Just a couple things for the viewers to watch. Laurel was not a healthy man for the whole movie. And that's one of the reasons it slows down. You can see that he's not in good health. And Oliver Hardy is just enormous. He was well over 300 pounds. And right after this movie, his doctor told him, "You lose weight or you're dead." And he actually got down to like 140 pounds before he died.
Wow.
And if you go online, I think if you go online and Google Oliver Hardy 140 pounds, photographs will pop up. And you just can't believe that's the same man.
Well, I'll leave you with this thought. My next guest is Buzzy Linhart, and we're doing his album Electric Lady Dream. It was the first album by a band known as Utopia.
All right.
How's that
That's a great thought to leave me with. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks. Have a good one, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Frank Dello Stritto, and Buzzy's been calling us. We didn't have time to finish up on his album.
Billy?
Buzzy.
I thought today was Wednesday. I'm so sorry, but I'm home now.
That's okay. What I did was I flipped. Instead of talking to you first, I talked to Frank Dello Stritto first instead of second.
Okay.
Now, here's the Shaka Pifi. We've got to do our book Shaka Pifi because we were discussing the movie for tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, which is Utopia.
Oh, no.
By Abbott and Costello.
Right.
And your album is Utopia by Buzzy Linhart.
Isn't Utopia Laurel and Hardy?
Yeah, Laurel and Hardy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy. Oliver Hardy, who was, I guess, 300 pounds in the movie, got down to 140 pounds, and then died.
And then died. Well, it saved money on a casket. Are we on the air now?
We're on the air, and we have an audience. Who's the audience?
Believe it or not, it's Louise from 3 hours north of London. She's visiting her cousin down in San Diego,
and they drove up for the afternoon to say hi.
Could she do a station ID? This is Louise on Visual Radio.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Vic, this is Louise. What do you want me to say again?
This is Louise on Visual Radio.
This is Louise on Visual Radio. Yeah, listen.
See, I'm the visual, you're the radio. They see me, they hear you.
Okay. This is Louise on Visual Radio.
All the way from London.
Oh, well, no, Southampton in Hampshire, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Louise.
I love your accent.
Yeah, thank you. And yours. I'll hand you back to the man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Buzzy, you have colorful people around you all the time. You have to do a movie.
I know, we should. We will. So the Shakapifi is Utopia.
Well, Utopia is the movie, the last movie by Oliver Hardy and his partner there, Stan Laurel. And you were the first Utopia. So their Utopia was the last movie, and your Utopia was the first album.
That's right, before they were called Utopia.
And somehow this TV show had to get that out to the world. That Utopia was the last movie by Abbott and Costello and the first record album for the band Utopia, Electric Lady Dream. It's reincarnated.
Yeah, it came back to life.
And we have 26 minutes, so let's go track by track, Buzzy. What do you open the new album with?
You know, we have not completed the order, the programming order, so that would be hard to say yet, as of yet.
So let's start with Kirkpatrick's defeat.
Will not be on the Buzzart version of this album because we want to get it out fast, and we don't have permission yet to use that record. And unfortunately, in the business, to be totally safe, you want to get signatures first, or you could wind up in court.
Now, isn't there a different version on the Moogie?
For further notice, Moogie's song can't be on the record.
Now, did you and Moogie do another version on the radio?
Yes, but not one that's been released as of yet. That's a very rare tape that I haven't heard myself in years.
So could you put that on Electric Lady Dream?
It would all, Art, I'm Buzz, he's Art, we're Buzz Art. He's the expert in that, and he would feel that we wouldn't want to take a chance on offending somebody. And
right, by putting an alternate take. Got it. And the Lieber and Stoller track won't be on this either, right?
It will not also, and we also have to skip the Fred Neil and the Tim Hardin song. So to me, it's a rather bleak lineup compared to the original. There will be a bootleg, I hear, available of the original, and we'll give people details on that in the future. But it can't be on my current label, otherwise we could all get hauled into court.
Whoa. So this is, boy, you know, like last week or the week before, I was interviewing a guitar player. It was last week, and Jay Giles' band is touring. And do you know they're touring without Jay Giles?
Really?
And I'm like, okay. I mean, we kind of broke it here. It was in the Globe, but it hadn't really been on radio or TV yet. And it's like, oops, sorry, I had no idea. And the YouTube is kind of like getting a lot of hits now because people want to hear that conversation about Jay Giles not being in the Jay Giles band as they tour.
Uh-huh.
So he wants the name, I guess, and he's got paperwork out there that he believes the name is his, where he's Jay Giles. And the rest of the guys, you know, I used to manage Danny Klein, the bass player.
I see.
The rest of the guys are out there as Jay Giles band, and they're touring. They've got Duke Levine on guitar, who's very, very good.
This is something that people should take precautions with in the future and try to make sure that if the band has a following, that they can continue to put out records without these side effects.
It's an ever-changing, ever-evolving world, and you know, I don't know, Buzzy, if I like that Foreigner goes out there with a new lead singer that sounds like Lou Gramm, and he's supposed to be terrific, and Journey has a singer that sounds like, you know, Steve Perry.
Yes.
But they're clone bands. For all intents and purposes, it's a clone band.
That's right. It's no different than a local band doing a famous song.
A tribute to Buzzy Linhart. Either call it a tribute or have the original members.
Yeah, that would be strange to have a Buzzy Linhart tour without me on it.
Well, the Buzzy Linhart tribute band, you know, they do it for Jimi Hendrix. I'm surprised you haven't done one yet with the Hendrix estate. They have, you know, Buddy Guy goes out and they all do Hendrix tunes.
I see. Well, I've just never talked to them, and I guess it's something I should try to do in the near future.
Yeah, actually, that is a good idea. We'll have to talk off camera about that. That would be a good thing for you. Go on one of those Hendrix tours, because you were friends with Jimmy and you played with him. That being said, so 4 tracks won't be on.
To let me go if I can meet Buddy Guy. So.
Buddy's a wonderful man. I've had lunch with Buddy. I used to produce him back in '86.
A show for him, but I didn't get to meet him.
Ah, now Buzzy. So there's 4 tracks missing. How many tracks are you putting out?
We're going to put out the same amount of tracks. It's 9, but it'll be different songs. We felt we should at least equal the amount of time, but there'll be some rare and until now unavailable Buzzy Linhart songs, and there'll be a couple, at least one with the great Maruga Booker and Chaos, guys, friends of mine, who I did a band with, who recorded with George Clinton, and I'll tell you, those songs are really, really impressive. And the thing that's making me happy is to see that they do fit the format of my life, and they fit right in with the stuff that we did in 1971. And I think that's at least shows I have a integrity of some sort.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so this is all new news since our last conversation, which was on the 19th, I believe, of July.
Yes, I didn't get to mention that to you at the time, but Art and I have decided to pack it with more songs.
So Electric Lady Dream will be a totally new release?
Yes, it sure will.
Separate from the music album. Can you go over any of the tracks and what you and your thoughts on them?
Absolutely.
All right, throw a track at us.
At one time, well, we'll mention "Talk About a Morning" because it was Jimmy's favorite song out of all of them at the time of his passing. And Eddie Kramer, the great producer and engineer of all of Jimmy's official records, says that when he came in to rehearse with the tape machines running and start recording for the last album, which was eventually called The Cry of Love, Jimmy would come in, and when he was tuning his guitars, would look over at Eddie and say, "Play that song." And he would play "Talk About a Morning" up to 10 times in a row, Eddie says. And so when anybody came to audition the sound of the studio, because it was a brand new studio owned by Jimi Hendrix, and everybody, of course, wanted to be there, but they still had to hear what it sounded like, and they were treated to "Talk About a Morning," sealed the deal for a whole series of at least 15 albums that came out of Electric Lady Studio Gold.
Nice. Now, how did you write the song? When did it evolve?
You know, I was listening when it came out. We're on the air, Miss Lara. We're on the radio. I love your singing, but it might not work out in editing. Wouldn't want to jump over to another song and scare everybody. Talk About a Morning was inspired by Good Day Sunshine on the Revolver album by the Beatles. It had been out for only a couple of weeks, and that particular day, I was living with a friend of ours in her spare room with Mary Snow. We're on the air, guy.
Living with Mary Snow.
Mary went to work, and I got up and listened to Good Day Sunshine maybe 10 times before I hopped the cab and went over to the Seventh Sons rehearsal loft. And when I got there, I sat down and I was practicing in the open G tuning that someone had taught me, and it turned into Talk About a Morning very easily. And I like to think that exuberance that's inherent to Good Day Sunshine is somehow appearing in the song Talk About a Morning. I think it was talking about the same thing. And as far as I know, it's the first time, and it's probably not completely so, but to my knowledge, it's the first time in the history of music that the term the now was referred to. Second verse, the yesterday is miles away and the now is feeling fine.
Ooh, I like it.
Might sing another line. So that's where it came from.
Now, the Seventh Sons was a different time period than the music people, right?
Yes.
So, but you still had the loft. This was, you wrote it earlier. You had it in your back pocket for this album. You had written it a couple of years earlier?
Yes.
Got it.
I wrote it the year that Revolver came out. I believe that was 1965 or 66. And didn't record it till 1969. And I actually recorded in London. It was one of the cuts that was not used on the original album, Buzzy with small caps or small letters, Buzzy on the Philips Mercury album at the time.
Boy, maybe I can ask UMG if they've got it in the vaults.
I would sure like to hear it. Also, we did The Love Still Growing. Wouldn't you like to hear those songs done by the band from Swansea, Wales?
Yeah, so you did these outtakes, huh?
Yeah. Well, they were completed. It's just we had too many songs in the end.
So how many outtakes how many extra songs were there done for the Buzzy album?
I believe there was at least 3 extra songs.
Nice.
We did That's the Bag I'm In also, but it didn't make the cut, that album. Boy, it's very stimulating to think back to all that.
And it's great to get it on tape, Buzzy. You know, our audio's coming out much better. Anthony and I, God bless him, Anthony Gamari in there, we've been working with the audio, and I can literally see in the studio room, I can see the audio going up in a vertical line. It's pretty cool.
Getting more complete.
It's vertical instead of horizontal.
Great.
And so I'm seeing a line going up and down. Up and down is vertical, correct?
Yes.
Horizontal is?
Side to side.
Right. As Olivia Newton-John sings in Physical, horizontally, let's get physical. Horizontally, get it? That's why.
Physical.
Yeah. A great song. That hit #1. I got to track down John Farrar and interview him. He had his people reach out to me, Buzzy, as you did, to thank me for the reviews. Isn't that neat?
Yes.
And Captain and Tennille's people did it too. But I'm going back to a lot of those allmusic.com reviews and putting them up on my Top 40 blog.
That's great, Joe.
Because there's so much of it, and we don't want to lose all that information because it was hard writing. You know, I wrote Total Recall today, which is the new movie with Colin Farrell.
Oh, you wrote your review of the new Total Recall?
It comes out tonight at midnight, so I write them in the afternoon, and then both publications I write for can spring them at midnight. Got it?
Are you allowed to tell us how you felt about it?
Did you see Metropolis, the old classic?
Yes, I did, but it's been 20 years ago.
And did you see Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original Total Recall?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so this is a Philip K. Dick novel. We can buy it for you wholesale, about memories and buying memories. Or you go into a chair and you can go to Cancun, Mexico, or anywhere you want, Australia.
He was in the top, in the top 10 or so finest writers of sci-fi at the time.
So
very famous writer.
I thought the original by Verhoeven and Dello Stritto and I just talked about it. It had some great moments and it was very colorful. This movie has no color, way too many guns, okay? And Colin Farrell's very, very good in it. I like him better than Arnold for this part.
Oh, great.
But Kate Beckinsale, the girls in the original movie have more chemistry and more subtle violence, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Subtle violence. Here the violence is in your face.
So now you were saying it lacked color. You mean flavoring type color? Because
no, real color. It's very bleak. You know, this whole Blade Runner thing of having dark science fiction movies, I'm getting very tired of it.
Uh-huh.
Everything's got to be, if you want to do a dark movie, do a black and white movie. What is it making a color film that's dark and very Metropolis, and they've got some...
easier to keep continuity if you want to really be technical about it. You know, if you use a certain effect, you can hide imperfections and make it match more easily if it's less subtle.
And the odd thing is there's some very sleek and very modern areas. The shuttle, the fall. There are only 2 colonies left on Earth, Australia and New Britain, which is England. See, I'm not reviewing the movie. I'm just giving you the details, which is allowable.
I see, sure.
And the fall goes right through the center of the Earth. So when they want to go from Australia to Britain, they get in this shuttle, and it just takes 17 minutes. They fly through the Earth. When they get to the core, it's no magnetized or magnetized or something, so there's no gravity. And then they go to Britain. It's very, very odd. And it's okay. It was an evening entertainment, but for this great premise, this great science fiction novella, and all of the fans that really liked Verhoeven's work with Schwarzenegger, I felt a sequel would have been better than a rebooting, okay?
Yeah, because you lose too much of the original.
A sequel would have been much, much better. And that's what the fans have wanted for 22 years, since 1990. 22 years, and the fans are given a new version of it. So I'll let everyone make up their own mind when they see it tonight at midnight. And you and I should talk more movies a lot more. We've got 4 minutes left, Buzzy. Should we attack one more song from the album?
Yes, please.
Which one?
If You Love Me, just because it pops to mind, it's very interesting. It's got quite a hook to it. It's a real strong hook, and may I recite the lyrics?
Sure.
Possible?
You own them. Go for it.
If you love me, never leave me. If you leave me, you don't love me. How can we hang on to a dream? Which is a line I got from Tim Harden.
Colin Blunstone was hung up on a dream. The Zombies.
Gotcha.
Okay.
The verse. If you leave me, you don't love me. You're beneath me, I'm above ye. How can we hang on to a dream? The interesting thing is that when we get to the solo, we just go into a straight blues shuffle, and a straight blues is is that the shuffle is dotted quarter notes rather than straight quarter notes. Dot 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 dot. Even in the solo goes into dot 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 dot. And that's, I've always thought that bended the interest song. And Doug Rodriguez at 22 takes an amazing solo. And we go back to the straight four, and then the song. Nothing much else to say except a couple of young people hearing it for the first time felt that they could hear the influence that we actually had on Steely Dan, a band who opened for us back in those days. And a lot of people feel that there was a real influence that I got to provide that's kind of noticeable on the music album.
Well, this is great, Buzzy. We got 2 songs down tonight, and we talked about the demo that got the deal. Do you remember any specific song Eddie Kramer heard at the studio?
When we were auditioning our tape to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it didn't make the album, so let me see if I can think of another one.
What was the one that didn't make the album?
It was a remake of a famous song, 50s hit called Let's Go Steady by the Pearls on the Onyx label. And it was really good, but one of the problems in life for a musician, and especially one who likes to do other people's songs, it can just reach a point where it's more money than the budget will allow. And it's something that I think is very interesting, and a lot of people would be interested to know that any song that you use on a record that's by someone else, you have to pay 9.5 cents at this time.
And that's our show for tonight. We got 5 seconds left, Buzz.
Split it in half between the promoter or the publisher